Welcome everyone, as we learn the venerable learning of Chok Yisrael for Parshas Teruma, Yom Daled, the fourth day. And we begin with a continued discussion of the Mishkan. V'nasata el ha'orain, you shall put in the Aron, which is in the Kodesh Kodashim, Esa Edus, the testimonial, which is the Torah, Asher etein elecha, which I will give you. V'sitein barona yasadusa, the etein loch. Rashi tells us, V'nasata el ha'orain, k'may b'orain, el ha'orain means like in the Aron. Ha'edus, what's the Edus? HaTorah. Now, why is the Torah called a Edus? A witness? Because it's proof, it's a witness that Hashem gave us the commandments. Sheila edus beini ubeinechem, it's a testimony between me and you, shetzivisi eschem mitzvahs aksuvas ba, that I gave you the 613 mitzvahs written in it. Vasisa kapiris zahav tar, you should make a cover for the ark of pure gold. Amasayim v'chetzi arka, 2.5 amas long, the amma v'chetzi rachba, and an amma and a half wide. We will see in Rashi, it was also a tefach thick. V'savet kapurta did have dechay tartin aminu falga urka v'amso falga pusya. Says Rashi, kapiris is a kisi ala aron, a cover over the aron. She pasuach momala, the aron was open on the top. And remember, it was 3 boxes. Umanicha olav kimindaf, and you put this board on top of it, which was the cover. Amasayim v'chetzi arka, ka'arka shel aron. The cover was the full length of the aron, v'rachba k'rachba shel aron, and its width was the width of the aron. U'monechas al oivei aksalim arba asam, and it sat on the thickness of the walls of the back boxes on all 4 sides. Even though it doesn't tell us how thick the cover was, our rabbis explain in Masech the Sukkah, its width, its thickness, not width, its thickness was a tefach. You should make 2 childlike images, zav of gold, miksha beaten out from the cover, ta'asa oisam, you should make them mishnei ktsaisa kapiris, from the 2 ends of the ark cover, one on one end and one on the other end. The savei train kruven did have negid taved yasan mitrain sitre kapurta. Says Rashi, kruvim demus pirts of tiniklaim. Keruvim means keruvia, like children, like the image of children. Mikshetase, but they did have wings, as we will see. Mikshetase, it should be beaten out of one piece. Shaloi tasem b'fnei atzman. You shouldn't make the childlike images separately. Usachabrein b'rashi hakapiris, and attach them to the top of the ark cover, la'achar asiyosem, after you make them k'maiset tzorfen, like smelters, shekarin solidate, which is called soldering. Elohotel zov harba betchilas asiyas hakapiris, put a lot of gold initially when you make the kapiris, v'hake bepatish ubekurnis, and hit with a hammer and a mallet, be'emtza, in the middle, v'roishav boltim lamala, and the excess will project above, and v'tzayir akruvim beblitais ktsaisav, and that which projects at the edge, you will beat out the form of the kruvim. Mikshe, what does it mean, mikshe? Batatim balaz, in other words, banged out. K'may dol do nakshin, their feet banged against each other. Ksais HaKaparis, at either end, Rashi HaKaparis, at either head of the ark cover, not in the middle. V'aseh kruv echad mikatzim izeh, make one image at one end, v'kruv echad ukruv echad bikatzim b'zeh, and another image at the other end, min hakapiris, from the ark cover, tasu es hakruvim, in other words, you don't attach it like we said, al shnei kitzaisav, on the two ends. V'avei kruv echad mesitrim mikah, ukruv echad mesitrim mikah, min kapurta tavdun yas kruvya, al train sitroi. Says Rashi, V'asei kruv echad mikatze. Rashi says that it's coming to tell you that you shouldn't think that it means to have two on one end and two on the other end. No. Shaloi time mishnayim kruvim l'kol ksei. You shouldn't think that each end had two. L'kach utzruch lefarish. Therefore, the pasuk specifies kruv echad mikatze is that one image on one end and one in the other end. Mina kaparis, like we explained. Min hakaparis atzma, from the cover itself, tasu es hakruvim, you should bang out the kruvim. Zel pirusha shall mikshe tasa isam. The pasuk clarifies what does it mean to be knocked out. Shaloi tasem b'fnei atzma, it shouldn't be made separately, u'techabrem lekaparis, and then attached to the kaparis. V'ayu hakruvim, and these angelic images and childlike images, Porsei knafayim lamala. Their wings were not resting on their back, but their wings were lifted up in the air. Seichichim bekanfeim ala kaparis, so that it was a full wing spread, so that the two wings touched each other of each kruv, and it roofed over the kaparis. Upneim ishal achiv, they faced one another. Ela kaparis, to the kaparis, yir pnei akruvim, should be the faces of the kruvim. Says the Targum, v'yohin kruv yaprisen gatfeim le'ela, matlin begatfeim al kapurta, v'apeim chad l'kavel kapurta, towards the ark cover, yohin ape kruvaya. They looked at each other and they looked down towards the kapiris. Says Rashi, Porsei knafayim, the wings were spread upward, shaloi tasem kanfeim sheichvim. Don't make their wings resting upon their backs. Ela prusim, they were spread out, ugvayim lamala, and lifted above, eitzel rashem, towards their heads. She'ei asarat tfachim b'cholol, that from the tip of their wings to the ark cover there was a cavity, shebein ha'krafayim l'kaparis, between the tip of the wings and the cover of 10 tfachim. There was a 10 tfachim cavity between the tip of their wings and the ark cover. K'di'isa b'sukkah. V'nasata es ha'kapiris ala oren milmala, and you put the cover on the oren above. Ve'ala oren titein es ha'edus, and in the oren you place the Torah, which I will give you. Rashi is going to ask, why do we have to say that? We said that already. V'sitein yas kapurta al aroina mila'elo u'baroina titein yas sadusa the etein lach. Says Rashi, ve'ala oren titein es ha'edus. So Rashi says, I don't know, we started out today's learning where it already said v'nasata el oren es ha'edus. You should put in the oren the edus. Why does it have to repeat it here? Lo yadati lama nichpal. I don't know why this is repeated. Sharik Kfar Nemer already said in Pasuk Tezayim, v'nasata el oren es ha'edus. You should put in the oren the edus. So Rashi gives a suggestion that here it's telling you that you shouldn't put the cover on until you put in the Torah. Yesh laim shebal lamed sheba oida oren levadai. While the aron is uncovered, below kaparis, without the ark cover, yitain tchila ha'edus l'saychai, you should put in the Torah and then only then cover. You should never cover it without the Torah in it. V'achar kach yitain es ha'kaparis olav, and then put the ark cover on it. V'chein matzinu k'she'ekim es ha'mishkan, we find that order when they actually set up the tabernacle. Nemar vayiten es ha'edus el ha'aron. First they put the Torah in the aron. V'achar kach vayiten es ha'kaparis al ha'aron l'mala. Then only then did they put the ark cover on the aron above. And now we go to Malachim, where we talk about the Beis Hamikdash that Shlomo built. And as we learn about this, we should be zeicha to see the building of the third temple, b'mehera b'yameinu. Vayiven es habayis, Shlomo HaMelech built the house, v'yichaleu, finished it, Then Vayispoin es habayis, he put a roof on the house. Gave him, first there was a ceiling that was seen from the inside of the mikdash, and this was a ceiling with a design. It had like moon-like designs with types of reeds that are half circular. And then it was covered afterwards with planks of cedar. Then he built the wings around the three sides of the house, like we explained. There were 38 apartments, so to speak, 38 cubicles. When the cubicles are the wrong word, there were
Chambers?
There were 38 chambers, good, around the three sides, and each level was chamesh amas kemasa. Each level was 5 amas high, and then vayechois es habayis, and afterwards the house was covered by atzei arazim with planks of cedar. Vayidva Hashem el Shlomo leimer, and as Shlomo HaMelech finished, Hashem said to Shlomo, Habayis hazeh asher boina, this house which you have built, im telech b'chukaisai, if you walk in my statutes, those are mitzvahs that we don't understand the reason, like kloyim bas b'chalav, ves mishpatai tas, and you do my laws that govern the behavior between people, v'shamarta is kol mitzvahs, that includes also the testimonials, like Yom Tovim and Shabbos, loleches behem, to go and follow them, v'akimoisies dvari itach, and then I will uphold my words with you, asher dibarta el David avicha, that I promised to David your father. V'shachanti b'seich b'nei Yisrael, I will dwell in your midst, v'loi ezav es ami Yisrael, and I won't forsake you. I will always be there to protect you and give you blessing. Vayiven Shlomo es habayis, Shlomo HaMelech built the house, v'yechaleu, and he finished it. And now Shlomo HaMelech tells us from his incredible wisdom in Mishlei, Ach Meri, a person who is rebellious of spirit, Yavakesh Ra, he has an agenda, he's rebellious, he's bitter, and he's always seeking evil. O Malach Achzori, a cruel angel Yeshulach Bai, is sent against him to deal with him and punish him. Pagoish Doiv Shakel, it's better for a person to meet up with a murderous bear, a bear that causes grieving. Pagoish Doiv Shakel Beish, it's better for a person to meet up with a murderous bear, than to associate himself with a fool in his foolishness who could lead him astray and seduce him to idolatry. The bear will only take away this world, but the fool could take away his afterlife. A physical confrontation is better than where there is going to be spiritual ruination. A person who is meishiv ra takas toiva, a person that returns bad for good. Not only is he not grateful, is he kofi toiv, but instead he returns bad for good. Here you have a husband, his wife is working the whole day and prepares him a beautiful meal and cleans the house, and he comes home and not only is he not appreciative, but he treats her with abuse. That's meishiv ra tachas toiva. Or a woman, her husband is paying all the bills and working hard, and he comes home and she's screaming at him. That's meishiv ra tachas toiva. That's the opposite of what it says about an Eishes Chayil. About an Eishes Chayil, it says gemalasu toiva loy ra. She only rewards good but not evil. Here is a person who repays good with bad. Loy samish ra mibeisai. Evil will not leave that house. Poiter mayim, this is a famous imagery. Poiter mayim, it's like when you have a hole in a dam, even if it's a small hole, the force of the water causes it to widen and widen. So also is Rashis Madon, The beginning of a fight, the beginning of a machloikis, is like a hole in the dam, and if you don't seal it right away, it widens and widens. It doesn't stay the way it is. The rift grows wider and wider. V'lifnei hisgala, and therefore before you are exposed, because anybody who is involved in the machloikis is exposed as a fool and a person of bad midas. V'lifnei hisgala, before you get exposed, hariv netosh, make sure to stay away and turn away from the conflict. Matzdik Rasha, a person who says that a wicked person is righteous, or Mashia Tzaddik, or a righteous person is wicked, Toyavas Hashem, that's an abomination to Hashem, Gam Shneim, both somebody who declares a wicked person righteous, or a wicked person, or a righteous person wicked, that's an abomination to Hashem. Lama zeh mechir biyad ksil. Why does a fool pay a price to learn Torah, liknais chachma, to learn Torah v'lev oyin, but he has no plans to fulfill it? Now, the truth of the matter is, if he just learns Torah shaloi lishma, because he wants to get a good name, because he wants to get a plaque, because he wants to be known as a Talmid Chacham, that's okay. Mitayt shaloi lishma balishma. But if he learns Torah lekanter, to show people up, and to use it to put down people or to control people in the wrong way, that's where it's not a good thing. The Gemara says actually it would be better if a person is like that he should have been a miscarriage. We now learn from the 9th parak of Bava Metzia. This parak talks about a person who has one of 3 arrangements. Now, let's say Ruvain, he could either rent my field and pay me money, or he could decide to be a sharecropper, where he takes my field for a year and promises me a percentage, either a third or 50% or 25%. Or he could be a choker. A choker is somebody that makes an arrangement that he will work my field and he'll give me a certain amount, 100 bushels. Then he has to give me the 100 bushels whether it was a bad crop or whether it was a bumper crop. So now, the parak starts out, it's a very long parak. HaMekabel sada mechaveiroi, if Ruvain takes the field for me for the year, Mekayim shenagu liktzar yiktzar. If the minig is to harvest the field using a sickle, then he has to harvest the field with a sickle. That way, it's less work. Lak or yakar. If the minig is to pull it out entirely, then he has to pull it out entirely. Lachrosh akrav yacharosh. If the minig is to afterwards plow it afterwards, then he has to plow it afterwards. Hakol k'minig Medina. Everything goes according to the local custom. Kishem shechol k'metvua. If we made up that he has to give me 50%, just like we divide the grain, so also we divide the inedible parts, the straw and the stubble. And kishem shecholkin beyayin, just like we divide the wine, kacholkin bezmeiris, or we also divide the parts of the vine that are pruned, which could be used for fuel, ubakonim, and also we divide the reeds that are used to prop up the vines. Now, the reason why we divide the reeds is ushneim misapkin as ekonim, because in the arrangement, both of us, the owner and the one who took the field, Ruvain, both of us paid for the props together, and therefore we divide it afterwards. Hamakabel sada mechaveiroi, if Ruvain rents the field for me, vihi beis hashlochen, and it was a field that needs irrigation, and it was near a stream, it was near a source, or beis ilon, or it had a tree, and Reuven was also benefiting from the fruit of the tree. Yovei Shama'ayin, even though the spring dried up, now Reuven is going to have to cart water to the field, or v'niksa sa'ilan, or the tree got cut down, Eina menakaloi min chikura, he can't pay me less rent, or he can't give me less than 100 bushels that he promised me. However, if Reuven dotted the I's and crossed the T's, I want you to lease me this irrigated field. So he added in the arrangement that he was counting on it being irrigated. Or this field that has a tree, and then Yovei Shema'ayin, if the source dried out, the water source dried out, or the tree got cut down, then menakaloi min chakuroi, then he could deduct from the rental from the amount. Hamakadol sonamei chaveroi, if Reuven rented the field with a sharecropper arrangement, that he was going to give me, let's say, 33% of the yield. V'hivira, and Reuven decided that this year he was going to learn Daf Yomi, Bavli, Yerushalmi, and he didn't work the field. I'm not going to get my percentage because he left it fallow. I evaluate how much the field would have produced if Reuven would do his work, and he has to give me 50% of that amount. So it says in the arrangement, if I leave it fallow and I don't do my due diligence, I'll pay you as if it developed properly. Now, let's say Reuven rented the field for me with a fixed amount. He's going to give me 100 bushels. He doesn't want to weed the field. He says, look, what do you care, Rabbi Weiss? I'm going to give you 100 bushels of good grain. I'm not bothering to weed the field. What do you care, Rabbi Weiss? I'm going to give you 100 good bushels. Ain't Shaimanlah. He's not allowed to do that because I have to live with the field afterwards. Because I tell him, you're going to leave the field at the end of the year, and you leave me a field full of weeds, which is going to be hard to deal with. So he has to do the proper behavior. The next case is where Reuven is a sharecropper. The field, although Reuven worked the field, it didn't grow. It produced a very poor crop. That happens sometimes, you know. That's why we have a brach in Shemona Esrei, a Baruch Aleinu, because it depends on the Rabbeinu Shalom. So now, the sharecropper says, look, there's no real work here to do. I'm going to have to find other work. I'm going to, go into a warehouse and get a managerial job. And there's no work here. Im yesh ba kedei lahamed kri, if there's enough crop that he could harvest from it, enough to make a pile, chayiv l'tapel, he has to work in the field. Rabbi Yehuda says, well, you can't say a pile. Ma kitzvah b'kri, it has to be, it depends how big the field is. Elim yesh ba kedei nefila, if the field produces at least equal to the amount of seed that he put in. In other words, if he put in 10 saw of seed, if the field at least yielded 10 saw, then he has to work the field. Here, Reuven leases the field for a set price. And then the field was stricken by locusts, or it was stricken by a blast, by a dry wind that ruins the crops. So he made up that he's giving me 100 bushels. I want my 100 bushels. So the Mishnah says it depends. Im makas medina If it was something that happened throughout the area, throughout the city, so then manakale michakuroi. We could deduct. So Reuven could deduct. So let's say, for example, if the field would have produced double, but because of the grasshoppers, it produced half the normal amount, so he could deduct, instead of giving me 100 bushels, he only has to give me 50 bushels. But in Eina Makas Medina, but if most of the fields in the area were not stricken, then Ein Menakalei Min Chakuroi. Then I could demand the full 100 bushels, because I could tell him, Reuven, look, it didn't happen to anybody else. Mazloch Gorim, that's your bad mazel, but you have to pay me the rental. Rabbi Yehuda Imim Kiblu Heimenu B'mois, if he rented the field for money, then Ben Kach or Ben Kach Eina Menakalei Mechakurai. In either case, he can't deduct, and he has to pay me the money. Now, Habakabel Sodom Echaveiroi Ba'aseres Kur Chitim L'Shana. If he made up with me that he's going to pay me 10 kur for a year, every year he's going to pay me 10 kur. Loksa, if let's say there was a storm and the field was damaged, the din is that I can't say, I want 10 good kur. You promised me 10 good kur of wheat. I don't want this stuff from the field that was smitten and it's inferior. No, he could give me 10 kur from that which grew in the field. If let's say it was a superior crop. Now Reuven doesn't want to give me from the superior crop. He's going to buy me 10 kur of average stuff from the market. No. I'll give you 10 kur from the market. He has to give me the 10 kur from the superior stuff that he grew on the land. Now, let's say the arrangement I made with Reuven is that he's going to lease the field and plant it barley. Now, planting wheat drains the land more than barley. So therefore, if we made up that he's going to plant barley, lo yizre'ena chitin, he can't plant wheat, because that's going to drain my land more, and we made up that he's only going to do barley. However, if I made up chitin, that he could plant even wheat, then yizre'ena sayrim. If Reuven wants, he could change it to barley, because that's going to drain the land less. Shimon Gamliel says, no, if I made up barley, that could be because the year before I did barley, or the 2 years before that I did barley. To switch is not good for the land. So if I made up barley, he can't switch to wheat either. Similar law, Tfua, if I made up that he's going to plant grain, lo yizrena kitnius, he can't plant legumes, beans, because that drains the land more. Kitnius, if he made up to plant beans, yizrena tfua. If he wants, he could plant grain. While Reb Shimon Gamliel says he can't switch, because switching is no good for the land. Now, if Reuven rents the fields for me only for a few years, less than 7 years, lo yizre'ena pishtin, he can't plant flax, because it takes 7 years for the land to regain its strength from the weakening of flaxseed. And ve'ein lo b'kayre shikma, he can't cut beams from the sycamore for construction, because it takes 7 years for that to grow back. Kiblu eimenu l'sheva shanim, but if he rented the field for 7 years, then the first year he could plant flax, shana rishani yizrena pishtim, and v'yesh lo b'kayre shikma, and he could cut the beams from the sycamore tree, because when he returns me the field, it will renew itself, and it will be the way I gave him the field. Hamakabel sada mechaveru l'shavua echad. Here's an interesting thing. If Reuven leases the field for one Shemitah cycle, b'shva me'ezuz, a shavua is a Shemitah cycle, and he pays me 700 zuz, I could say that includes the Shemitah year, even though he doesn't get anything from the Shemitah year. But it includes the Shemitah year because it says one Shemitah cycle, and in one Shemitah cycle is included a Shemitah year. Hashvias min aminyan. However, kivle menu sheva shanim b'sheva me'ezuz. But if he says I want 7 years for 700 zuz, so there we assume he means 7 crop years. Then ein hashvias min aminyan. I can't count the Shemitah year, and I have to give him 8 years because the Shemitah year is not a crop year. Now, we're going to discuss a new subject. This subject is that we're not supposed to delay the payment of a worker. Schir yaim, so therefore, if Aaron worked for me during the day, Goiva kalalayla, he could collect the whole night. I have to pay him that night. Schir laila, if Aaron worked in the night, Goiva kalayim, I have to pay him by the end of the next day. Schir shois, let's say he worked for me for some 5 hours. So if he worked in the night, Goiva kalalayla, I have to pay him by the end of the night. Excuse me. Schir shois, laila, if he worked in the night, that means he worked in the night and he finished at the onset of the day. Goiva kalayim, I have the whole day to pay him. Sorry, I skipped here. Sorry, schir shois, if he worked just for a few hours. So if if he worked during the night, I have to pay him that night. The kolayim, and if he worked during the day, I have to pay him that day before shkia, before sunset. Schir Shabbos, schir chodesh, schir shana, schir shvua. If he worked for a week, a month, a year, that was the arrangement, or 7 years, Yatsa b'yayim, the day that he finishes, Goiva kalayim, I have to pay him that day. Yatsa b'layla, if he leaves in the night, Goiva kalayla, I have to pay him that night, v'kalayim, and the next day. Now, this din of not delaying payment, echad schar adam, this is whether I hired a person, the echad schar behema, or I hired an animal, the echad sachar kelim, or I hired a snowplow. Yesh by mishum b'yayim titin schar, there's the mitzvah say of paying the person on the day, v'yesh by, and there's the lav of leisalim pula sidka salim it pula sachar itchad b'yki, you shouldn't keep the wages of the worker till the morning. Amosai, when does it kick in that I have to pay him without delay? Bisman shetvoi, when Aaron asked me for the money. Loi tvoi, but if he doesn't ask me for the money, ain't over love, I'm not over. Furthermore, him cheyu eitzel kenveni, if I sent him to a grocer and told him that the grocer will give him food, I eitzel shulchani, or I sent him to a money changer and told him that the money changer will give him the funds, even if there was a delay, eina over alav. Once I sent him and made my due diligence of arrangement, I'm not over if there was some delay by the grocer or by the money changer. Sachar bizmanai, if the worker asks for the money during the time that I'm supposed to pay him. Let's say I'm supposed to pay him before sunset. If before sunset he asks for the money and says he wasn't paid, and I say I paid him, so there, since it's likely that I might have been busy, So Nishba v'noitel, there we say that Aaron could swear and ask for his paycheck. Others manai, but if it's afterwards where we assume I paid him on time, then ain't a Nishba v'noitel. Then he can't swear and collect, rather I swear that I paid him. Im yesh edim shetvai, but if there are witnesses that the worker asked the owner in the proper time to be paid, and that I pushed him off, so then even if it's after the deadline, he could still swear and collect. Ger Toishev, a resident alien, which means that he is a guy, but he accepted not to worship idolatry. Yesh by mishum b'yomei titin schar. We learn out that you have to pay him on time. However, ve'ein by mishum, there's no lav of lo yisalim pula salcher itcha ad boker. There's no lav if you keep his wages until the morning. The lav doesn't apply, but the mitzvah say does. That has to do with the drasha from the psukim. The parak ends with one more subject. Hamalave es chaveiroi. In the event that if I give Nachman a loan and he doesn't pay me on time, we made up that stam loan is for 30 days, and he didn't pay me. Lo yimashkinenu ela bebezin. I can't demand collateral except I have to go to court, and the court sends an agent to demand the collateral. The agent of the court can't enter Nachman's house. Shenema b'chutz tamid. He has to stand outside, and Nachman brings out the collateral. Now, let's say the collateral involves two utensils, one a day utensil and one a night utensil. Hayoloi shnei kelim for the collateral. Noitel echad. One is used during the day and one is used during the night. So noitel echad, he takes during the day the one that's used in the night. Omaniach echad, he takes the one that is used in the night during the day, and the one that's needed during the day he leaves by him. Omagzer es a car, and I make sure to return the pillow in the night, balayla, v'esamacharesh, and the plow by yom, during the day. Now, if, not Nachman, but if I took collateral from Chatzkel, v'emeis ein machzil yoshev. If he dies, I don't have to return the collateral to the heirs. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer, even to Chatzkel himself, I only have to return it for 30 days. After the 30 days, I could sell it. I could sell it to get my payment on my debt. Almana, a widow, ben shiania, ben shiashira, whether she's poor or wealthy, we can't take collateral from a widow. You shouldn't take as collateral the clothing or anything else from a widow. Finally, you're not supposed to take anything that is needed for oichel nefesh. So if somebody takes the millstones from a person, he's over loisase, and he's actually chayiv for two utensils. The chayiv mishum shnei kelim, the mill that goes on top, and the base that it rides upon. Shenema lo yakbol rechayim. You shouldn't take the mill of varechev, and also the lower part. Lo yakbol rechayim, which is the lower part, and varechev, and the upper stone that rides upon the rechayim. You're not allowed to take either. This is not only true for a mill and for the millstone and for what rides on it. Anything that's needed to provide food, because you're taking his life, that which provides him life, that which provides him sustenance. And now we go, this took a very long time, and now we go to the Gemara, very interesting Gemara, in Masechtas Bava Metzia. Amalei Rav Yehuda l'Rav Bar Rav Nachman, Rav Yehuda said to Ravin bar Rav Nachman, Ravin my brother, Lo tizvan ara desmicha lamasa. Don't buy land that's near the city. Because if you buy land that's near the city, people will look at it and give it an ayin hara. It's forbidden for a person to stand and gaze at his friend's field when it's in its full growth, because he'll be envious and he could give it an ayin hara. So if you have it near the city, people will give it an ayin hara. Says in here, is that so? Rabbi Abba found the disciples of Rav. Amalu, my Amar Rav Mahani Kroi. How did Rav expound this pasuk? Baruch atah be'ir, blessed are you in the city. Or Baruch atah b'sada, blessed are you in the field. Baruch atah b'vayecha, blessed are you when you come. Or Baruch atah b'tzeisecha, and blessed are you when you leave. V'amalei hachi Amar Rav. Baruch atah be'ir, blessed are you in the city. She'ei beis kos samach lebeis hakneses. That means that your house should be next to the shul. It's very good to live near the Beis Hashem. Baruch atah b'sada, blessed are you in the field. That your property should be near the city so that you don't have a big commute. Baruch atah b'vayecha, blessed are you when you come. That when you come back from a journey, you shouldn't find your wife a doubtful nida when you come home. Preferably she should be tar, but even she should be definitely tummy. It hurts more where you don't even know, so you might be avoiding her when you really want her for nothing. Baruch atah b'tzeisecha, you should be blessed when you leave. That means that those that come out of you should be like you. Your children should be kamaiska, like you, in Torah, in Midas. And he told them, Rabbi Yochanan doesn't expound this way, like Rav. He doesn't expound the pasuk this way. That you should have a bathroom near your table. They didn't have plumbing in those days, so if there was an outhouse nearby, it's better for a person's health, so that he shouldn't be over the lav of being mashed in the kavov. It says that's an isser about to shaktzu, and it's also very unhealthy. Aval Beis HaKnesses like, but not a synagogue, because it's better for the synagogue to be further, that you should get schar reward for walking. Rabbi Yochanan Tamei Dam schar yesh, there's reward for walking. Baruch atah b'sada, blessed are you in the field. She'ei nechasecha mishulashim, you should diversify. Shlish b'tfuah, a third in grain. Shlish b'zeisim, a third of olives, and shlish b'gefanim, a third of grapes, so that if one crop is ruined, you'll have at least another one. Baruch atah b'vayecha, Baruch atah b'tzisecha, blessed are you when you come, blessed are you when you go. Shetei yitziascha min ha'olam ki bi'ascha la'olam, that when you leave the world, it should be like when you came, just like ma bi'ascha la'olam b'lei chet, just like when you come into the world, it's without sin, a baby has no sins. Af yitziascha min ha'olam, when a person leaves the world, he should do tshuva, it should be b'lei chet, without sin. So, but here we see that it says that he said that you should have your property near the city, and we learned earlier it's not good because of an ayin hara. Says the Gemara, like kasha had the mahadale shura veriska, if there is a wall around the field or a wicker fence that you can't see, that there's no ayin hara, then it's good to be near the city. If you don't have the money for a wall or a wicker fence and people could see in, then it shouldn't be near the city because there would be an ayin hara. Hashem will remove from you all sickness. What does kol chayli come to include? All sickness. Amar Rav zu ayin. That's ayin hara. An ayin hara, an evil eye. See, when Hashem gives a person blessing, He says, I give it to you, but I don't want you to cause people pain. If that which you have extra causes people pain, then I'm going to take it away from you. So, ayin hara could cause a lot of problems. Rav letamei, the Rav salak lebei kivrei. Rav went to a cemetery. Oven made the Ovid. Rashi says he said some kind of an incantation. Amar, and he said, Tisha v'tishin ba'ayin ra, 99 out of the 100 people buried died from an ayin hara, ve'echad b'derech eretz, and only one from natural causes. Shmuel says when it says kol chayli zeh haruach, that's the damage caused to people from winds, from drafts and other types of winds. Shmuel tameid, Shmuel hakol beruach. Everybody meets their end because of the harm of the wind. I says the Gemara Shmuel ha'ika harugei malchus. What about those that were executed by the government, where their neck was cut? So obviously they didn't die from the wind. Hanachnami ilav zika. If not for the wind blowing into the open wound, avadu sama. There are certain herbs that could be used, as the Gemara says in Bava Basri and Amoicher Esasvina, that could close the wound, the chaye, and he would be able to live. But when the air gets into it, he won't be able to live. And now we learn a very complex Zohar. Let me give you a bit of a preface. We learned in the last Zohar that when we say Oz Yasher and Yishtabach, we're preparing the Shechina to crown the Shechina to greet Kutch Berichu. The Shechina is the manifestation of the Rebbeinu Shalom here in the world below, to greet what we call Kutch Berichu, the Matronisas, the Shechina, the feminine side. It's called feminine, of course there's no genders and Hashem is only one, but it means that the Shechina will be synthesized together with the Rebbeinu Shalom above. Now, when we say the Birchas Kriya Shema, so at the end of the first chapter of the first bracha, we say a stanza that has all the letters of the Aleph Beis. Kel Baruch. See, it starts, Kel starts with an Aleph, Baruch starts with a Beis, Gedol, with the Gimel, Deya, Heichen, Ufal, Zorei, Chamas. You see, each word starts with a different letter of the Aleph Beis. Now, this is called Asvin Ze'ira, because each Aleph Beis has only one word. This is different than on Shabbos, where we have Kel, Adain, Al Kol Amasim, and then the next one is a Beis, and the next one is a Gimel. There, it's a lot of words. But here, each letter gets only one word. Kel, Baruch, Gedol, Deya. So, says the Zohar as it starts, Kel Baruch, Da Sidura de Asvin Zeirin. This is an order of using the Aleph Beis that's small order, because each letter gets only one word. V'tikune Knesses Yisrael, and this is a benefiting the Knesses Yisrael. Remember, the Knesses Yisrael means the Shechina. B'chol Yoyma, every day, b'slosa, in our prayers when we say Birchas Kriya Shema. Or begin the inun asvin zeirin, since it's each word gets a different letter, less ravacha beinah. That means that there's no series of words till we get to the next letter. The inun tikune ulemasan. Remember, we said that when we do this, we are, so to speak, fixing and preparing the Shechina and the Sheva Na'oros, the 7 maidens, so to speak. It's a retinue of angels that the Asyan Imatronisa, that come with the matron, with the Shechina, Ligabe Malka Ilah, with its fusion with Kutch Berichu. Kedusha Da, the Kamikache Malache Eloi, this sanctification done by the angels above, Lav Iyu B'Yachid. This is not meant to be done alone. Vo Kimna, called Kedusha D'Iyah B'Lashon HaKodesh. When we say Kodesh, 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 we're saying it in Lashon Kodesh. This is in contrast to by Ovolatzion, we also say it in Aramaic, right? Kaddish b'shmei merama, ilah be'ishchinte, kaddish alara, oivid gwerte, that's Aramaic. Kol kedusha di'i b'lashon HaKodesh, yachid asalei l'meimer. It's not meant to be done with an individual. Targum, on the other hand, when it's Aramaic, that's oilam b'yachid, that's for an individual, b'loiv b'sagin, not for many. The yachid iu tikuna delay, vadai, and when it's Targum, its correction is done for an individual, v'loy sagian, and not by many. And the siman l'raza da, that Lashon Kodesh is pluralistic and Aramaic is individual, is shnayim mikra v'echad Targum. We say, when we review the parasha, 2 times the mikra, because mikra is Lashon Kodesh, that's double, that's pluralistic. V'echad Targum, Aramaic, is 1. Shnayim lishna desagianiyu. 2 is pluralistic. The vade kedusha the lashon hakodesh aser I biyachid. That's not supposed to be with the individual. And even though, of course, when we're home alone, we also say Birchas Kriyashma, and we say Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. That's because we're saying that the Malachim say it. We're not saying our own narrative. And Kedushas Targum, that which is said in Aramaic, Aser Iu B'Sagin, that's not made for the rabbin, that's made for the individual, El B'Yachid La'olam, because it says Echad Targum Tanina. It says that's why the Targum is only once. V'lo train, v'lo yater, not 2 or more. Now, how do we understand this? Targum Asya L'Mi'uta. That which we say in Aramaic comes not to crown the Shechina, but to be memayet the Tumah, to diminish Tumah. V'hachi itzrich, and this is necessary when we come to diminish Tumah, we use Targum. Lashon Kodesh asya l'ribuye. The Lashon Kodesh comes to increase the honor to the Shechina. V'hachi itzrich, that's why we have do it with many, the malin b'kodesh, because we go up in kedusha v'loy marinin. Or but Targum, when it comes to the Aramaic, when it comes to diminish the tumah, marinin, we go down v'loy malin and not up. Echad teneinon, only 1 v'lo yater and not more. V'loy malin klan, we don't elevate when we come to diminish tumah. Kedusha da, this Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh that we say in Birchas Kriyashma, Kedushasa diskacha shchinta. This, as we said, is to give holiness to the Shechina, what we call the Matronisa, the presence of the Shechina below. The Kol Ilan Resichon, and its Merkava, its chariot, its the 7 maidens. Listakna, to improve her, Legabe Malkilah, as she goes to greet HaKadosh Baruch. Or begin to eat Kedushas Alma Tata, since the Shechina is the manifestation of Hashem below, therefore that's why we say it while we're sitting. That we say when we're sitting. But the Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh that we say in Chazaras HaShatz, in Shemona Esrei, Kedusha Achara, the Adurei Tzla, so as we repeat the Shemona Esrei, and we say the Kedusha, that's Kedusha that we, that is coming from Hashem towards the Shechina. Iu Kedushasa the Alma Ilah, that's above the manifestation of the Rebbeinu Shalom in heaven, or begin Kaki Bamida, therefore we stand. Begin Lam Shocha Lo L'Sata, that's the Kedusha emanating from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the Shechina. The Kol Milui, the only Ilah, and anything that's coming from the upper realm, Iu Bamida, we stand respectfully, V'loi Miyushev, and we don't sit. O B'chol Hani Kedushte Yisrael Mikachibu L'Sata. And all of these Kedushas, that of the Kadosh Baruch Hu and the Shechina, we echo below. Valda miskache b'kedusha deresicha tata miyushav. That's why that when we do the kedusha representing the Shechina, we sit, B'kedusha d'Resicha Ilah, and that which we say coming from Hashem above to the Shechina, Muhammad, we stand. Now, what about the Kedusha that we do in Revolet Zion? Kedusha Akra I Toisefes Kedusha. This is an additional Kedusha. Beginay Kach Hibasa Tzlusa. It's after davening. Or begin to eat Toisefes Kedusha al Kedusha Acharon, since it's additional Kedusha, Iu Labasa Tzlusa. It comes after davening. Or begin to Kol Chad V'Chad Boilam Shucha Alei Mahut Toisefes, since each individual wants to draw that extra Kedusha on himself, asking the Kol Yochid V'Yochid Kedusha Targum. We instituted it with Aramaic. But we also say it in Hebrew. Before we say it in Aramaic, we say it in Hebrew. We say it in Hebrew. That's because we also want to draw it on the tzibur, on the community. That the whole tzibur should get the emanation, this additional kedusha. Or begin the yachid lesle reshusla im rebelashon hakodesh, and since an individual can't say it in lashon kodesh, ul iskacha yichidai, and to have it individually, askin label l'shayin targum, we instituted it in targum v'yu b'yachid, because here we're saying it ourselves, so therefore we have an Aramaic version for the individual. L'skacha kol chad v'chad ba'ut teisefes, that even an individual could bring along this additional kedusha, la'amshacha alei, to bring upon himself kedusha yater, extra kedusha. We have to realize what a big opportunity this is to bring upon ourselves this holiness. Zakol koyin Yisrael, fortunate is the portion of Yisrael, the kamiskache b'kedusha ilai, that they become sanctified with this celestial holiness. Begin to inun devekin leila, because we attach ourselves to the Shechina and to Kodesh Barichu. D'chsev atem advekim Hashem Elokeichem, you who cleave to Hashem, your God. Chayim kulchem hayom, you are all living today. And now we learn the Musar. Again, the Musar drives home the importance of humility. Sholchem Ritam, they sent from Eretz Yisrael a Zo ben Olam Haba, who is a member of the afterlife, Anvesana, a humble person, Ushval Berech, one that's lowly in the knees. In other words, he's not haughty. Shayef ayel, shayef nafik. He bends when he comes in, he bends when he leaves. In other words, he's humble. Vigoris baraisa tadira, he's always learning. V'lay mazik tivusel nafshe, and he doesn't take credit for himself. V'ased HaKadosh Baruch Hu liyas haTorah b'reish kol tzadik. Hashem himself will be a crown over every righteous person. Yachol HaKol, I would think everybody. Talmud Loimer v'lishar amay, one who treats himself like a leftover. L'misha meisim atzmai kishirayim, one who is humble and treats himself like leftover. U'b'sefer HaZayir Parsha Shlach, in the Zayir and Shlach, Haki Pasach Rav Mesifta, this is how Rav opened up the drasha in the academy. Zakah iumand de azer garme, fortunate is one who makes himself small, b'hai alma, in this world. Kami iu ram bahu alma, how tall he is in the next world. Manda Iuzar, one who is small here, Iurav, he's big over there. Or Manda Iurav, one who makes himself big and haughty in this world, Iuzar, he's small in the next world. Oitsham b'Parshas Teruma, there's also Zayir in Parshas Teruma. Amai Ikra Yecheskel ben Buzi. Ben Buzi. Buzi means disgrace. Why is the great Yecheskel called ben Buzi? Al da'avim mevazer garmei legabe manda gadol minei. He would lower himself and disgrace himself before one that was greater than him. That's why he was called Son of Man. In other words, he's the man. Nobody else was given such a title. Ram, and he's considered the tall one. From the family that's tall. Nama nimshla Torah l'mayim. Why is Torah compared to water? Now, of course, water comes from heaven. Torah comes from heaven. Water quenches the thirst of the body. Torah quenches the thirst of the soul. But also, ma'amayim ein holchen melamakum namach. Just like water flows from high to low, kach einat Torah shayra ela b'misha ruchay nemucha. The Torah flows to one who is of a lowly, humble spirit. Like it says, Huzaru mibnei aniyim shemimenu teitzei Torah. And finally, we learn the Rambam in Hilchos Kriya Shema, HaKoirei Eshma, one who is going to say Shema, Roichitz Yodav b'mayim, he should make sure he washes his hands first, Koidim Shiyikru, before he says Shema. He gives man kriyas if the time to say Kriya Shema arrives. V'loi matzah mayim koidim shiyik, and he can't find water. Lo ya'acher kriyasa. He shouldn't delay his saying Kriya Shema v'yelech levakesh mayim to look for water. Ela mekaneach yodav ba'offer. He should wipe his hands in earth, or b'tzrar, or on a rock, or b'kaira, or on wood. V'kiyotz bem, or similar item, v'kairei, and say Kriya Shema. And currently, you can't say Kriya Shema in a bathhouse, nor in a lavatory, even if at the time there were no feces there. First, nor in a cemetery, or nor next to a dead person. But if he's 4 cubits away from the grave or the dead body, he could say Kriya Shema. If you say Kriya Shema in a place where you're not supposed to, you have to say it again. If you already designated a place as a bathroom, and you didn't use it yet, you could say Kriya Shema facing it, but not inside it. A bathhouse that's new that you didn't use yet, you could say Kriya Shema even inside it. If there were 2 rooms, you designated one as a bathroom, and then you said on the second one, end this. Now, end this is Yadayim Sheinon Machichas. It's not really clear if you meant end this as a bathroom or end this for a different purpose. So, Arisheni Suffolk, the second room is doubtful. If it's designated as a bathroom, you shouldn't say Kriya Shema in there in the first instance, but if you did, you're yaitzik. Amar Gamzeh, but if you said this one is a bathroom, and also that's Yadayim Machichas, that's clear that you meant it should be also a bathroom. Harishneim Zman, they're both designated as a bathroom, and you can't say Kriya Shema in them. Chotzer HaMerchatz, the antechamber to the bathhouse, where people stand only dressed, Mutter Likris by Kriya Shema, there you could say Kriya Shema. You see, it's an hour and 3 minutes. We went 3 minutes overtime. We don't do that very often, but it was 13 Mishnah. It's a very long Mishnah. We want to thank you for joining us and wish you a wonderful day.